Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Builder Show, the show where we build builders. And I wanted to start you guys off with a question. All right. Electricians keep saying that apprentices don't want to learn, they don't want to work. But I want to pose you with this question. What if it's because journeymen don't know how to teach? What if it's because journeymen do not know how to teach or how to instruct? And we've seen this come up plenty of times, especially through content, but it seems that a lot of times journeyman electricians believe because they have time or experience, they have the years under their belt, that therefore means that they know everything and they know how to teach. And if apprentice isn't progressing or if they are not understanding, well, it's because they can't handle it. They're dumb. They don't know how to do the work. They don't want to learn how to do the work. And so we see a lot of the blame pushed on to the apprentices for whatever the reasons may be. But a lot of journeymen, unfortunately, are not trained on how to teach others. They're good at their craft, they're good at their skill, they know how to do the work, but that doesn't equate to how to teach others. Will, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good conversation starter because we're especially in an industry, we're especially in a craft as electricians where people take so much pride in their work and they may be the best installer. I know when I was starting in electrical and I was paired with a journeyman, everyone would go like, "Oh, you're with the good guy,"
Mhm.
because they want to show you what's possible. They want to show you good work ethic, but that good work ethic doesn't always translate to the best instructor. And that's what I started noticing, especially when it comes to as electricians. Just because you've been working and you do good work doesn't automatically make you a good instructor. To be honest, we usually will see the opposite. You'll see someone paired with somebody who's very good at work. Let's say he has good work ethic. Let's say he starts early and works late at night. I remember there were some rough crews that we were working with, and these guys were like, they were tanks, crack of dawn to crack like all night.
Mhm.
They were just banging out overtime. But then those were the crews that like never really knew how to talk. They were just like, do what I do. And then there was like the cool kids, you know? So it's funny how we're having this conversation because we want everyone to have those skills. We want everybody to get the training that they need so they can make the trade of or make the trade something of it, and have pride in their work and have this good routine. But at the same time, this is where we got to incorporate or start injecting some soft skills into it. And every time I would see these contractors or these electricians or these journeymen now start working, I feel like they don't know how to communicate what's next, or they don't know how to communicate what to do exactly on a site. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about today. What are some things that journeymen can do? Or let's say you're not even a journeyman, but you have somebody working under you. How can you communicate and how can you actually help them understand the why behind what they do?
Yeah, so for an apprentice coming in to the trades, you're gonna end up starting with the mundane work, the grabbing this, throwing this away, but eventually you are gonna be taught how to do something, right? For example, one of the first things that I learned how to do was install an AC disconnect, and at the time, I had no idea what I was doing. I was being taught how to do it, and I knew how to finally install a disconnect for an AC unit. Times that by 100, 150 times on other things in a house, right? Because all we did was residential. I learned how to do everything in a house. I knew how to make up a switch box. I knew how to tie in a receptacle. I eventually learned how to tie in a panel. But then I never was told the why for the longest time, which is, I think, the big next step in being an electrician is understanding why you're doing something. Knowing how to do it can take you so far, and then understanding the why is going to take you to the journeyman level. And I think sometimes journeymen, they lack the latter part, right? Explaining the why. Because remember, everyone's there clocking in, clocking out. Unless you really care about the trade, unless you really care about your apprentice, a lot of journeymen are there just to do their job, get the task done, to have an apprentice under them trying to show them how to do things to make their life easier, and then you go home. And then that's where I think a lot of the disconnect happens, or the lack of training, is because everyone's getting rushed all the time. Wow, I just said all that and I wasn't even being recorded.
Mm.
I think my video froze up. Um, what are your thoughts?
On which part specifically?
Do you think that's actually the case with journeymen? They focus on just trying to tell an apprentice what to do, but then lack actual good training as far as explaining the why, because they don't know how to communicate well.
I don't think that's it because I don't think like if you think about it from the beginning, the journeyman is not saying, "Oh, I'm the best." You know, the contractor is assigning you to the
Mhm,
journeyman because he wants to showcase the best type of work. You understand? He's like, this is the best producer. He's the one who's making us the most money, or he's the one who does the great type of work. So this is what we want eventually out of you. So when a contractor is assigning you with a journeyman or with somebody to learn from, for the most part, he's putting you with someone who's going to make you a producer. How do you make money for the company? For example, you were talking about the example of this HVAC tech where they sent over an apprentice to you to talk about stuff like that. You don't need to be a journeyman to swap out a
right.
filter. You know, you don't need to be a journeyman to drain a water tank and clean it out just so the sediments aren't at the bottom. But what we're starting to see is companies, they want to throw an apprentice as quickly as possible with a journeyman or a lead so that they can start making their own money. So I think what we need to start recognizing is what's the intent from the contractor, because the contractors in their perspective is like, how do I start making money out of this apprentice?
Mhm. Yeah, and do you know how long it takes for to make money on an apprentice?
Well,
I
yeah,
think
it depends on the
it
how many
depends on
years
the
he has,
trade.
you know.
Yeah, well, because I've heard people like Dave Ramsey have said, like, new hires, it takes, like, 2 to 3 years before you actually make any money on them.
Oh, that's
And
like green then. Yeah.
right. Yeah, brand new. So
Yeah, I can see that, especially when it goes to contractor. They're usually hiring for a specific project
mhm,
or a specific task. You know, like you saw, like if someone's going to hire an apprentice in HVAC, it's for a service tech. So you can think about all the work that they have to do. You know, filters, water drain, thermostat swap outs. You know, you're like, okay,
mhm,
cool. I don't need a 4 year guy to do that. I can get someone in 3 months, show them how to swap out a filter, and he can be on his own, you know? Or then, you know, if you're a plumber, you can be like, oh, I want this guy to just do my water tanks, you know? Or you can be an electrician and say, hey, I want you to just tackle services. So you
right.
need like at least three. So when it comes down to hiring apprentices and giving them the training that they need, I feel like contractors start grouping them for the most part as for tasks, because then they're like, okay, cool. I can send you to do thermostats all day. I can send you to do troubleshoots all day. And then that's really what's going to help a lot of the people at the end of it.
Right. Sorry, my camera's messing up. Mm, yeah, so going back to our original question, what happens? Like, why do you think we have some of these journeymen who don't know how to instruct? Like, what's the culprit?
I think it's because we weren't told or we weren't taught. There's that expression we keep coming back to where it goes, hurt people, right? You can only teach what you're comfortable with. You can only teach with what you know. So if there is a contractor or a journey person who learned the old knuckle buster way, that's all they're going to be able to do to teach their apprentice, because they feel like, hey, if I had to learn like that, you have to learn like that. If I had to get the whip cracked on me a few times, that's how you're going to learn, you know? And I feel like at the end of the day, that may hold some merit, that may hold some weight to it. But at the end of the day, we know that's not going to help longevity. Everybody, especially now when we talk about Gen Z, everybody has a different learning method. There's different ways to addressing, there's different ways of communicating, there's different ways of portraying a lesson for an apprentice. And I feel like a lot of these kids nowadays who are going and growing up through school, going through the motions, going through high schools, graduating, becoming young men and women, they have a different tolerance for how they're going to start learning, especially with everything now being online and there's so much information out there. You can really find what's best for yourself. You can like a certain content creator, you can like a certain person on YouTube because they speak your language. And then you go to the construction site, you're paired with someone who's been doing it for 30 years. And then they're like, this is how it is, take it or leave it. That's where the friction starts coming in. So I feel like that's what's going to start opening up the floor for more dialogue.
Yeah. So do you think it's also like a time thing, a generation thing? Because obviously at some point, some people have been trained over the past 50, 60 years, and you have electricians, you have good electricians. And so that's what we encounter in the content is this generation. It becomes like a generation thing. Do you think there's any validity to that?
I think so, because once again, we go back to that core principle. People are talking about this is how they were taught. And then
Right.
people don't understand that there's a difference. There's the way to learn in a classroom setting, and then there's a way to learn in the field. Now, we go back to in the field, if there's an emergency going on, like a water main blew, a service emergency, you understand live wires everywhere. There's a time and place for training. There's a time and place for everything. And if your hand is in a panel and it's live and you're trying to figure out what you have to do, of course, once again, by default, no reason you should be sticking in light, try to shut everything. Okay, we get all that. We're talking about, we're in a service call. We're trying to get a baseline right now. And then an apprentice keeps asking why. That can get really irritating while your hands are in the project. So like, hey, there's a time and place for everything. That's number one. But for the majority of the time, I feel like they just have to understand their role, or you have to explain the purpose of the training before a task is given. Because I've also been on the other end of it, of this stick, where I was just told, hey, go hang this up. And I never did it before. I don't, hang up a light. I never did that before. And they just assume you know what you have to do. I was given, there was time, I specifically remember, and I freaking messed up someone's ceiling fan because I was paired with somebody, probably was like 4 weeks on the job, go hang up this light. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I knew how to take a light down, but I didn't understand what a ceiling fan rated box was. And I put a ceiling fan on just a little cut in box in the ceiling, and it just fell down once we turned it on because it started vibrating and just popped right out. And then guys like, oh my God, you freaking idiot. Like, I understand I could have said something, but I'm coming in at the same time just trying to figure out, like, oh my God, I don't want to mess up. I didn't feel comfortable enough to speak up at the time. So in that one little scenario, there's so many other directions you can blame. Like, why didn't the apprentice speak up? Well, why didn't the journeyman ask if the apprentice knew what to do? Well, why did the journeyman assume the apprentice knew what to do? Or was the apprentice giving false information, trying to say, I know, and trying to look good in front of the
Mhm.
guy? And then he goes up and then he misses. There's so many factors on it, but it comes down to the same problem. Like, are we communicating? Are we teaching? Are we asking the right questions so that apprentice can feel like, or feel the need, or feel free to speak up and say, hey, maybe I am not comfortable with this, instead of just like, hurry up and go do this. Or on the other end, like, if you want to try to take a risk, take a chance, do an install, and then at the end of the day, if you mess it up, you mess it up, and you're going to eat the brunt end of the stick.
Sure. Well, you don't know what you don't know. So when you have an apprentice mess up, like in your situation, how do you know to ask if you don't know that you need to ask? Does that make sense? So you see that a lot of times
Exactly.
with the mistakes. Why would you do that? Why? Well, you don't even know that it's a problem. one of my buddies one time had his guys go install a standby generator, and whenever they went to pull the wire through the flex, I think one of the apprentices cut the low voltage wire too short or something, and they ended up making splices with low volt wire inside of the generator hookup area, and then extended the low volt uh, in the generator, right? Well, my buddy got really upset because he didn't feel comfortable with low volt joints in the generator, the rattling, this and that. Like especially with small wires like that, it can come apart, especially if you have it under a wire nut or something. I think they used wire nuts, but I think he asked, like, "Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me? I would have had you repull the wire." Oh, well, we thought it was fine. That's just a classic example of you don't know to ask because you don't know how it all works and the repercussions of a decision you're about to make. So, does that make sense?
No, 100%. And we actually have some comments coming in. Like, for example, we got Zeus Electrical System. He
Mhm.
just comment. He goes, most of the time, it's the fact that either the apprentice doesn't know but wants to learn, or the fact
Yeah,
that the license guy never thoroughly explained the concept of the project.
sure.
So I feel like that is exactly what you just said. And that goes to our next point, where a lot of the times you'll see a journeyman or somebody taking the lead in a project, and they'll default is do this because I said so, or just do this so we can get in and out. For a lot of the times, people need to understand why they're doing something. It just paints a better picture. Imagine you jump into a car and you just tell somebody, drive. Oh, okay. It's like, what is this? A hostage takeover? You know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing? It's just your body's now in fight or flight. So you just start driving. It's like, hey, I need to go down to Main 123 Main Street. Can you help me out with that? So then you feel more available. Then you feel like, oh, okay, I know how to get there. Let's go about that. Or, hey, how do you want me to get there? Highway or we're going to go local? So a lot of that stuff really does help, because we understand if you can't communicate or you don't feel free to communicate, this is just a lot of the situations that we're going to keep running into. And we have a lot more comments coming in, and I want to ask uh, you some of them. We got Mr. Light Guy LLC down in Philly
Mhm.
just commented. He goes, some don't know how to teach. Most apprentices don't feel safe to ask questions either without getting yelled at, or they feel they're going to get yelled at. We all, as a trade, can do better on both sides. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't. At large, I think that is true because we see a lot of people blaming each other. It's the apprentices who suck, or it's my journeyman who sucks. Well, I think it's just a mixed bag of a little bit of everything, right? And I know the feeling of being new, being an apprentice level, and being scared to ask something because I don't want to look like a fool. Should I know this already? I can't remember. Have I been told this? Have I been trained on this? If I ask, am I going to look like an idiot? And that's going to prevent me from taking on more responsibilities, getting on more
Mhm.
job, like taking on more jobs by myself. So yeah, again, I think this just goes back to the contractor, the environment the contractor is making, the kind of culture. Because if the contractor is hurry up, go, you can forget anyone ever getting trained right. Everybody is going to be rushing everything. The journeyman who may know what he's doing is not going to be able to train the apprentice well because he's getting rushed from his boss, the contractor. You see, it's a vicious cycle that starts with the contractor. All this goes back to the contractor and the culture that they create.
I
And
like that.
I
And we
think I'll go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say MA Sparky is commenting right now, and he goes, I could not agree more with you. And then Zeus Electrical System is saying, agreed, Cameron. They're saying, right on. I have worked for journeymen that just don't take the time to teach. They only assume the apprentice knows what to do.
They assume the apprentice knows what to do. Well, I guess then that assumes that you've told them. Because sometimes
No,
the
or
journey
a journeyman gives them a task and they say, oh, I guess he should know what to do, you know?
right, and they don't. or maybe they told them once and
Yes.
then they should know it, right? Sometimes it
Exactly.
takes repetitiveness, and what I really can't stand is when a journeyman tells an apprentice to do something, whatever task it is, you tell them once, and then they think that that's set for life. They should know from here on out. Dude, as a journeyman, as a contractor, whatever the context is, as a leader, you need to be checking your guys all the time. I've made that mistake with my own guy, and that's not dissing anybody, but there's been times where I've assumed that he should know how to do this or that, assuming it, and then I find
Mhm.
out later that it was done wrong, and I can't blame him. I can only blame myself because I didn't communicate what happened to him beforehand. I just assumed because you get doing this for so long, we think that certain things are common sense. And guess what? Not everything is common sense. Not everything is just like known to everyone and to an apprentice. I hope that makes sense. Um,
No, it does.
but
And that's why I love this point specifically. And M.A. Sparky just commented saying that there's so many different factors to this. But I think there's two key takeaways. If you're a contractor and you're looking to make a hire, either as an apprentice or if you're going to hire a journeyman, there's two things that you want to keep in mind. You have to be intentional on who you pick as an instructor if you're going to hire an apprentice. Who's going to teach that apprentice? Not every good electrician should be an instructor.
mm,
Some people are great workers, but they're terrible teachers.
mm.
And you have to understand that training matters. The only way that you're going to grow that apprentice is if you're going to put time and energy into him. That's the first point. The second point is apprentices, you still have a responsibility in your company. You have to speak up. Bad instruction is not an excuse for carelessness. Well, he just told me to do it, so I just did it. Or you don't put any effort into asking follow up questions. Even if something bad is going to happen, especially with an electrical, you want to at least make sure that you voiced your opinion. So apprentices need to show up regardless, asking questions, showing up on time, making sure you have all the pieces of the puzzle so that you can do the work properly. But at the same time, understand that a good instructor will help you, but the apprentice has to care. You understand? He may be going above and beyond, or he may be in a position like you're in a position where you don't feel comfortable. You're not comfortable of the craft. He's not comfortable in training. But the simple fact that you show that you're going to care, that's going to make it easier for him to train you. So those are the two key points that I would say to keep in mind. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think this can lead into another conversation that just came into my head about when you talk about hiring, whether it's apprentices or journeymen. What we've seen online is almost every time a contractor posts to hire, what do they say, Will?
3 to
What are
5
they looking
years,
for?
don't need a babysit.
And that's not an over exaggeration. Like literally, contractors have used the same words and terminology. Looking for 3 to 5 years, I shouldn't have to babysit you. Literally, those words. And what good electrician is going to say, oh, hey, that sounds like a really good place to work. I'm going to go work for that guy.
Yeah.
Because guess
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Even if you hire the 3 to 5 year guy, you still have to train them to some level. And also, we all know that just because you're a journeyman doesn't mean that you know everything that you should. I know people personally that have made those hires and then they end up not being all they said they were, right? So, but it baffles me because so many contractors, I would say 9 out of 10 posts I see from contractors online are 3 to 5 years. There's one guy I've seen that actually said that he looks for basically kids out of high school, right? Green guys. But you are when you consistently make those. Let me fix my video real quick before I say what I'm going to say. As a contractor, when you're always posting or looking for the 3 to 5 year guy, please understand that you still have to train them. You still have to show up because guess what? They're going to mess up. You're going to get mad because you think that they shouldn't have to be babysat. They still need to know how you want things done. Everyone has their own way of doing things. And just because someone has a journeyman license doesn't mean that they're going to always do things the way you want them to be done. So it's really important that as a contractor, you train, because it goes back to the original point that we were making that opened up. Contractors or journeymen, they don't know how to communicate well. They don't know how to train. So guess what? They're counting on the other company, the other employer, to do all the training. You really think that's how it works? You really think it's that easy? You're just going to let a business train an employee for 3 to 5 years, and then you're just going to go snatch them right out of their hands? So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do the dirty work. I shouldn't call it dirty work, but you know what I mean. They don't have, I don't have
Yeah,
to do all the hard work. I don't have to do all the investing. I'm going to let that company do all the investing. And then I'm going to entice them. Hey, I need someone 3 to 5 years. I shouldn't have to babysit you. Come over here.
exactly. The comments are going crazy right now over here on Instagram. So I just want to
Oh,
say,
okay.
firstly, I
I need to check 'em out.
appreciate you guys. We have Justin Ludd commenting. Hope you're doing well, brother.
Zeus.
But he,
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut
hello?
you off. I didn't mean to cut
Okay.
you off.
So I'm going
Uh,
to read some of the comments right now. Even more than checking them, the contractor or even the journeyman, they need to have systems and checklists in place so it doesn't live in the contractor's head. We have Zeus Electrical. He goes, this comment from Cameron, the 3 to 5 years shouldn't have to babysit you. He goes, this is the BS that I see every day in the trade. He goes, absolutely agree. The contractors and journeymen need training. And then we also have Mr. Light Guy. He's over here telling us his experience with apprentices. Uh, we want apprentices to be helicopters and just go straight up and complete the job. In reality, they are in an airplane and have to take off on an incline and gradually grow to understand what they're actually doing. So I just want to appreciate you guys for commenting down below. You guys are doing awesome. Train your guys. Employees are your investment. And I think these guys hit it on the point because that's going to lead us to a few takeaway points that we want to share with us. So if you're a contractor and if you're looking to make a hire as an apprentice, or let's say you're an apprentice and you're looking for a contractor to hire you, here are some tips and tricks that you can do to make yourself stand out. First, electricians should teach one why every day. Once again, electricians should teach one why every day. Why are we doing this? Why are we going this way? Why are we running the wires behind this wall? Why are we doing this certain way when yesterday we did it that way? We want to understand the why behind we're doing it. Sometimes that means it's a code, sometimes that means it's a job application. The second, apprentices should repeat the lesson back in their own words once they were given a task. So if you're an apprentice and you were told, hey, go do XYZ, you should be able to repeat back what you were given. Not only does that protect you, but it also lets the instructor, your journeyman or contractor know that, hey, I heard what you did. And at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, why wasn't that in the instructions? Contractors should pair apprentices with electricians who actually care to instruct. There's people who will go, or journeymen who go, I get paid from the neck down. That's not part of my job description. Why am I going to train this guy? You see, he doesn't care. So even if you force an apprentice on him, do you think he's going to take full advantage of it? Next, stop using because I said so. Why? I think it's pretty obvious. Build weekly skill checks, just like Justin Ludd said, right? Build weekly skill checks so apprentices know what growth looks like. So they have an expectation. They know what's coming up. Hey, this is something that we did last week. Now I can prepare for it even better because it's repetitive. Correct the mistakes, explain a standard, and let the apprentice try again. Just like what we were talking about, apprentices are part of the investment process. You're there to learn, you're there to make controlled mistakes. You're there so, hey, if you mess up, that's okay. As an employer, I can eat that cost. because I want you to learn, because later on you're going to be able to do this on your own and you're going to be dependent. So this is the time to make questions. This is the time to make mistakes. This is time to make your time and your training count. So those are a few takeaways if you're an apprentice coming in, or if you're a contractor thinking about hiring an apprentice, so you guys can start applying this. Cameron, you want to jump onto the closing takeaways?
Yeah. Let me. I had Instagram pulled up. Let me pull it. Sorry. Yeah. So we keep putting apprentices next to electricians and assuming learning will happen automatically. It doesn't. Learning happens when somebody slows down long enough to explain the why, hold the standard, and checks that the apprentice actually understands. That is true instruction. And so, what makes someone a good electrician instructor or good electrical constructor? Experience, patience, communication, or all three? If you want to leave that open for just a moment before we close out, what makes someone a good electrician instructor? Good electrician instructor. And I really appreciate all the comments too. Especially from Justin Lunn, and putting some good stuff in there about systems and SOPs and checklists, taking pictures and stuff. So, Zeus says you have to allow for mistakes to make room for development and growth. Love to hop on the live podcast next time. Yeah, Zeus. Will has a SOP for that for the podcast. So connect with Will after this episode. Yeah. So what I try to focus on every day with my, well, I say apprentice. There's no state apprenticeship in Tennessee, but I'm just using that as just so everyone understands what I'm talking about. But my apprentice, he every single day he's going to learn something from me, whether it's code or why we're doing something. Basically, what we were saying, well, why we're doing it this way. The other day, we were running a new branch circuit for an AC unit that the homeowner added. It was a 10-2 circuit on a 20 amp breaker. So basically, while we're running the wire, I'm explaining to him, hey, so do you know why we're running a 10 gauge to this unit? That's what it needs. Yeah, that's what it needs. But why are we running it for? Why didn't we just pick some other wire, right? So we went out there when I got out to the outside unit. We looked at the sticker, like, hey, this is the spec sticker. You see how it says minimum capacity 20, max fuse 20. I think it was like minimum capacity 19 or something. Anyway, it could have taken a 12-2 on a 20 amp breaker, but the GC wanted us to upgrade the wire size in case they ever added a bigger unit for whatever reason. So I was just explaining to him, like, hey, going up in size wire, it never hurts to go. You can run a freaking 6 gauge if you want for this thing. You can never go down. You can't ever switch it and go the other direction. So all that to say is that was just a really good opportunity for him to understand why we're pulling a certain wire to this, because if he's ever on his own one day and he needs to run a wire size, I need him to go pick up the wire. Well, he can double check the sticker and make sure that he's running the proper size wire based on whatever it's rated for. So, I think that's it for the comments. Will, I think,
Yeah,
that's all we got for the most part. Yeah.
perfect. You want to close this out, brother?
Yeah. So again, appreciate you guys hopping on. If you guys are ever interested, if you're a contractor or in our industry, shoot us a DM, Energize Us CDU, or one of us, and we can see about having a conversation about having you on the podcast. Would love to open that up to anyone who's interested. So if no one has anything else, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Have a great night.